Welcome back, everyone. Large adventure motorcycles are at an inflection point. Well, they have always been evolving with continuous improvements in performance, power, technology, and of course price. But if we stop to think about it, today, street performance and electronic rider aids is where the edge is for adventure motorcycles. Just look at these bikes and their horsepower numbers and what they offer in terms of electronics. I call it the Ducati multistrada effect, when in 2010 a superbike motor ended up in a sort of adventure motorcycle, and it had also 4 riding modes. From that time on, things changed. BMW has been the leader of this segment for decades, especially after Long Way Round and Long Way Down, and kept its top position by making evolutionary changes to the large GS model. And that way it was keeping up with the new competitors, like new electronics, incremental changes to performance, and design changes around the same theme of the successful 2005 and 2006 models, with one major change in 2013 when water-cooled was introduced. Then at this time, exactly 1 year ago, BMW introduced the 1300 GS, the most significant change of all, in my opinion. BMW had no choice but to improve the GS performance. And they had to do that without compromising its real adventure side. They had to meet European regulations and do it without getting rid of its most important element, the boxer motor. Did they accomplish that with the 1300 GS? Is the GS still leading, or is it being pushed out of the way? Let's talk about it. I will offer my opinion on this matter based on my riding impressions, which is sort of subjective. But I will also answer this question based on facts. That is, I'm going to take a look at the sales numbers. I use the Italian sales market to measure sales volume because they do report sales by year, month, and by model. So it's not going to be a direct measure for worldwide sales. But these numbers have been a consistent indicator of sales performance throughout the years. I will look at the GS as a whole package, including the specs and its looks, of course, since the looks are a major factor for many buyers. And I'll discuss my opinion on what I call BMW's two-pronged strategy to keep its top position, and I'm talking about the increased differentiation between the GS and the GSA models. I will finalize the video with a will I buy this motorcycle or not? I took a BMW 1300 GS for a long test ride. This happened a few months ago, and this video took a long time for me to put together because soon after the ride, I started a series of non-motorcycle related trips. I've been halfway across the world, somewhere in the middle of the Pacific, and then some other places, including a couple of travel segments through that Microsoft global outage, what was called the CrowdStrike. You remember that? And then I had to take care of other stuff in my garage. Do you still know what a carburetor is? I put a new Weber carburetor in the Gipser and it is working better than ever. Then it had a problem with its fuel pump. And then I went on more travels. Have you ever swum with sharks? What a summer. Well, and fall. But I'm back. Well, I had more time to gather my thoughts about this, and so have you, because I think some of that negative perspective on the GS, and especially the new GSA, have died down some, right? And now we all have seen the new models at EICMA, what's new and what's available, what's coming in next year. On the large adventure bikes, there isn't much going on, some evolutionary changes. I think the 1390, the KTM 1390 Super Adventure is an interesting motorcycle. The real change that I've seen are on smaller bikes, like 450, 500 cc's, but that's for another video. Okay, so back to the BMW 1300 GS. The ride was awesome, and there were no surprises. I had read some reviews and seen some videos of riders talking about their riding impressions on the 1300 GS, and it matched my experience. It's still a heavy motorcycle, mind you, but I'm glad there was no weight increases from the 1250 models to the 1300. Actually, there was a very small decrease in weight. The first thing I noticed is how smooth the motor is and how responsive it is. What fun it is. At the beginning of the ride, I turned it into Dynamic Pro and felt the response to be slightly more aggressive. They claim the Dynamic Pro offers a more direct response to throttle, but it's not as aggressive or feel as direct as my 2013 Multistrada, which has comparable horsepower numbers. The Ducati, in my opinion, feels and sounds more raw. The BMW, it feels like the throttle software interferes more with the response from throttle input. My perception was that it is less linear. I'm talking minute stuff here, but noticeable stuff. I turned it back to road mode. I felt it offered a more honest reaction to throttle input on this mode. It's more predictable, but it still is very responsive. The 1300GS has a broader gear ratio than the 1250. First and second are shorter, fifth and sixth gears are taller. I enjoyed the broad range of power you get on third and fourth gears when riding on large radius curves. The broad band of torque and power allows you to take curves in fourth, third or second gear, your choice. It all depends on what kind of emotion you want to experience. But at the end of the day, what it shows is that the 1300 gained horsepower and maintained its torque edge when compared to the 1250. But I felt 6th gear was soft below 60 miles per hour. I preferred to downshift to 5th and even 4th if for any reason road conditions demanded attention while cruising at 60. I like to have the bike in my hands. I like to be at the fat portion of the torque curve, have the bike ready to accelerate from minimum throttle input. Talking about this, I never understood people who evaluate a motorcycle by how it accelerates from 25 miles per hour in 6th gear. It is ridiculous to expect great performance from any internal combustion engine under this combination of gearing and acceleration. That's why engines have a gearbox. With 6 gears in most cases even if software and anti-knock sensors protect the motor from a rider's bad decisions, lugging a motor is never a good thing. The same way you know it's not good to ride a bicycle uphill in top gear, right? Thank goodness for the new automatic GSs. Now these guys, let's call them lazy riders, can enjoy slow speeds with the motorcycle shifting down through the gears for them. Or they should just get an electric motorcycle. How about that? Long live manual transmissions. But I digress. Let's go back to the BMW 1300GS. Overall, when on road mode, where I felt the twist of the throttle to power delivery was more predictable, the bike felt strong. Not as raw and engaging as my Multistrada, as I mentioned earlier, but it is ready to perform without drama. A slight twist of the throttle and you are in the action zone. Plenty of power at your disposal, its torque numbers don't lie. And on top of that, this bike is great on cornering, easily changes direction, feels very light, but it is solid. It inspires confidence. The average rider, like me, can make it go a little fast. I bet a fast rider can have loads of fun with it. I can summarize it as a very fast, fun, and solid sport tourer. Maybe not the typical perspective for a large GS. But since I said sport tourer, let's talk about the touring part. For longer rides, where the GS is supposed to shine, I can assume it is perfect because although I did not take it on a long trip, it is easy to project it to longer distance because I felt very comfortable and it offers great wind protection, the seat is comfortable, and I also never felt a need to make any adjustment to the rider's triangle. I'm 5'9" with a 30-inch inseam long torso. The bike fits me perfectly with the medium height seat. It fits me like a glove. Well, seat to ground is a bit on the tall side for such a heavy motorcycle, but I never felt it was unstable at stops and U-turns, thanks to the lower center of gravity afforded by its boxer motor and its very smooth acceleration from stopped. But if I buy it, I would definitely go for the adjustable height suspension option, which was not available on the bike I rode. I did not take it off pavement, but there is nothing that makes me think this GS is not going to perform as well as the previous models. But there were a few things I didn't like about it, and I wish BMW would have solved these issues after decades of GS evolution. Number one is the clunkiness of the gearbox. This is an all-new gearbox, so it was an opportunity for improvements. But there it was. The old issue, first, second, and even third gear were clunky at times. Other than that, when it worked and at top gears, gear shifts were superbike fast. I did not try the quick shifter, force or habit, I guess, but the reviews of it have been positive. Another issue I didn't like was the front tire rumble that comes from the tunnel formed by the tank around the forks and the triple trees. This is not new for the GS line, it is something I've experienced with the previous models. I can only assume it will get worse with more dirt-oriented tires. After a while, as I was riding, I forgot about that nuisance, but I know that the rumble is always there. It's like tinnitus. The other thing I didn't like is the smallish tank size. Yes, there's an option, the GSA. It has an 8-gallon tank. Although I like the looks of the new GSA, I don't want to ride a motorcycle with the weight and volume of 3 extra gallons on my lap. But 1 extra gallon, making it a 6-gallon tank, that would be great for the regular GS. A perfect compromise for a solid 250 miles range without having to slow down to save fuel. But I understand BMW is trying to differentiate these two models, the GS and the GSA. Also, there is the engine sound. It sounds a bit more mechanical than the 1250, but when you are on the throttle, I actually liked the raspiness of the exhaust mode on the revised boxer motor. I think that's it in terms of negative stuff. Yes, there are some new models niggling issues that BMW is resolving, but what manufacturer has not had recalls, especially when it is a new model, a radically new model? My 2019 Indian is on its second recall campaign. I'm not going to review the electronics. On this higher end of the market today, all motorcycles have similar rider aids. To summarize my test ride of this motorcycle, considering it's a heavy motorcycle, I'll say it's fun and it is well-rounded. It is a well-thought-out machine. But how does it compare to the other large adventure motorcycles? The question is it still leading or is it being pushed out of the way? Let's first look at some facts. Let's look at the sales volume in 2024 so far. If we take into account the comments that people made in my previous 2 videos about the 1300S, on looks alone, this bike is a dud. But when we look at the sales volume, the story is different. As I mentioned before, I use Italian data because that is the data we all have access to by model and by month. And among the large adventure motorcycles, the BMW 1300GS has become the top seller again, a position it had lost to the Africa Twin in 2023. Although there are 3 months of data still missing, it easily already outsold the previous model. It sells double the volume of the 3rd most sold bike in Italy, the Multistrada. The rest of the above 1000 cc's adventure motorcycles sold well below 1000 units. And when you combine the GS and GSA figures, at 5,476 units sold, this leadership increases even more. It is leading the way where it counts, sales volume. What about the subjective side of things? How does it deliver its role as an adventure motorcycle? And I already mentioned it, and it is clear to me that BMW took a two-pronged approach with the 1300 BMW. It has diverted its large adventure line into two distinct motorcycles. When you look at this 2023 GS and GSA bikes, they are different. Obviously, the GSA has the larger tank, and there are other differences. But they follow a similar school of design. The 1300 GS and GSA models, on the other hand, although they share the same engine, transmission, instrument cluster, wheel sizes, headlights, and so on, they not only look very different from each other, but they seem to be coming from completely different schools of design. It seems as BMW wants to offer two distinct products. The GS looks more compact than the previous GSs and has a tighter, streamlined and fluid design, more of an on-road performance look, if you will. The GSA, on the other hand, keeps the GS storyline, the Bauhaus approach, with the form follows function thing. Obviously designed for long-distance travel with that large tank, not only designed to carry 3 extra gallons of fuel, but with a squarish modular design, it can carry BMW's purposefully designed bags that not only look good, in my opinion, but they generate more income to BMW. From what I hear from reviewers who had a chance to ride the GSA, with its heavier weight, longer suspension travel, large tank, it has a more traditional BMW GSA feel and behavior. That's it. You want the traditional BMW GS, the long-distance tourer, one you can ride 300 miles without stopping. Who wants to do that? And one that has an industrial look, although with a redesigned modern shape, but which still pays homage to the BMW lineage. You have the 1300 GSA, which has presence, looks beautiful, and it is more iconic than ever in my opinion. Now, on the other hand, if you want to keep up with the street performance of the other large adventure bikes, but without compromising the off-pavement performance, you have the regular 1300 GS. As I tested the GS, it was difficult not to think of it as a sport touring machine. It's more relaxed performance than my Ducati, but it delivers a clear, sport-oriented performance. I would much rather be on the 1300 GS for a long ride than on my Multistrada. Yes, it doesn't have that raw performance and horsepower of its competitors. Take a look at the large adventure competitors. 150, 160, 170 horsepower. These are sports bikes numbers. Ridiculous for an adventure motorcycle. Yes, I know. It is fun as hell to ride a 150 horsepower machine. But to what adventure are we going with a motorcycle with these horsepower numbers? How many of you honestly use your motorcycle's horsepower to the limit on public roads? Even less on gravel roads, right? Horsepower is not only a function of torque, but also torque, my friends, is what we use 100% of the time when we are on a ride. On every gear change, on getting out of every stoplight, on every acceleration out of a corner. Horsepower? Well, very few of us have used it in its totality. Great for a track day though. The combination of torque, horsepower and how it delivers the power makes the GS aggressive enough to be competitive and fun on the road if that's what you want. Or you can cruise and travel the distance in comfort. What makes an adventure motorcycle? One that maximizes street and off-pavement performance and can go the distance? I consider the 1300 GS an improved Swiss knife. I did not test it off-road as mentioned before, but I've seen videos and reports of its performance off-road. Nothing makes me think it will not do as well as the previous models in dirt and gravel roads. In fact, it may do better with its improved torque, improvements to suspension, and improved electronics. But now it is a better sport touring machine, and that, to me, makes this motorcycle more complete and much more attractive. Yeah, some of you may want to focus on street performance. Then you have the Ducati and you have the KTM. The Ducati is the best looking of all. That's sexy in motorcycle language. The KTM, it looks like it means business, especially the new one. If you want street performance but also want some off-pavement performance, you also have, besides the KTM, you have also the Triumph. And if you want to make sure you reach your destination, there's the Honda Africa Twin. But at the end of the day, if you are serious about adventure, still want some flair, the BMW still leads the way in my opinion. If you need the looks of the motorcycle to make your adventure real, get the GSA. If you are only concerned about performance, take the GS. What's the best about all of this is that now we have more options. So we all can enjoy our preferred type of riding with a preferred type of motorcycle. But in my opinion, the GS will always have its place because the 1300 GS and GSA have something special. The Boxer motor. With its inherent limitations but so many benefits, the Boxer motor is what makes the GS unique. With the 1300 GS, BMW made improvements to the Boxer motor with a shorter stroke, larger bore for more horsepower without compromising torque, and it's now smoother overall. With the 1300, BMW kept the GS alive and kicking into the 21st century despite increasing European regulations. Who knows what will happen next, right? Did you see at EICMA the Honda V3 motor with a compressor? Or Ducati's new V2 architecture with shorter stroke and intake variable time to compensate for less mechanical torque? You see, it's all about producing torque from other sources other than a larger stroke-to-bore ratio. A technology trend for more efficient motors without compromising torque value, which is what BMW did with its Boxer motor on the 1300 GS. So, will I buy one? To me, the most important aspect of a motorcycle is how much fun it delivers. And I have a tendency to like smaller bikes rather than bigger bikes. Of course, each motorcycle delivers fun for different kinds of riding. The GS has always been a great compromise across several of the types of riding I like, and now it is more complete at that. I'm looking at getting a motorcycle to ride in South America, especially its extreme south regions, for traveling long distances in the Pampas and the Patagonia, and to keep it there for shorter rides in that area. There are lots of nice curvy roads and dirt roads there. I would keep it at a secret location in south of Brazil. I have two friends who I know for decades who live in South Brazil, and with their GSs, they travel through Patagonia frequently. The regular 1300 GS would be a great match. The Ducati Desert X would be another option just because it is a Ducati and it is smaller in size and it matches my style more properly. But I'm open to other smaller and less expensive motorcycles as well, as long as they can keep up with the larger adventure machines on longer segments. But anyway, this is not going to happen this year, and it's not going to happen next year either. Who knows when that's going to happen? Meanwhile, in my dreams, I'd rather be riding a BMW 1300 GS on a dirt or paved road somewhere in South America. Thank you for watching this video.